Yeah, once
Yeah,
that,
one, it
and
was
then
like, it was just like deflation.
all right. All right. I would like to call this meeting to order. Ms. Ackermite, roll call, please.
Pledge of allegiance.
Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That's what I called it was that. So, all right, great. Okay, at this time, we're going to do the oath of office for some of our new members of our team. We have three members that were elected in November. So if those folks will stand for the oath of office, that would be wonderful. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education
And that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of a member of the Board of Education
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you and welcome to the Board of Education. At this time, we're going to some families come forward and take pictures with the new members. Would be wonderful.
we'll have some of the Storm family come up. Kelly, just in time.
She doesn't need a blanket.
Give her your phone.
I don't know.
That's all right. I'll go with it. There she is. Come on
Go by that.
Come on.
One, two, three. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, our next order of business is election of officers. I will be presiding during the nomination and election of the office of president. Nominations will not need a second. However, a motion for the candidates nominated is in order and requires a second. A roll call vote, and it will be used as a method of recording the vote. If more than one candidate is nominated, a roll call vote will be taken with each board member stating which candidate he or she supports. So at this time, we will be accepting nominations for president of the school board.
I'd like to nominate Bill Trombley for president.
I'd like to nominate Roger Myers for president.
Motion to close?
Support.
Second.
Mr. Trombley, did you close?
That's me.
Three.
She has
Yep.
a motion, I support.
Okay, so we're gonna do the roll call to close the motions.
Okay.
Dr. Krebs,
This is to close?
close the nomination.
Yes.
Yes. Dr. Krebs, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Mrs. Marks,
Yes.
Mr. Myers,
Yes.
Mr. Conley,
Yes.
Mrs. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Trombley,
Yes.
Mr. Storm.
Yes.
So now I'm going to do a roll call vote, and you're going to let me know what candidate you're voting for. Mr. Conley,
Bill Trombley.
Mrs. Reed,
Roger Myers.
Dr. Krebs,
Roger Myers?
Mr. Storm,
Mr. Trombley.
Mrs. Marks,
Roger Myers.
Mr. Trombley,
Myself.
yep. Mr. Myers,
Myers.
okay. Mr. Myers has 4 votes.
Okay, and welcome to Mr. Myers for his second term as board president. Thank you.
All right, at this time, we will move to the nominations for the office of vice president. Do we have any nominations?
I nominate Dr. Krebs.
I nominate Bill Trombley.
Motion to close.
Motion by Ms. Reed and
Support.
second, support by Dr. Krebs. Ms. Ackerman, a roll call vote, yes or no, to close the nominations?
Mrs. Marks?
Bill Trombley.
Close.
Yep, we're
Oh,
That's
I'm
okay, yeah.
Said
Mrs.
yes
I'm
or
early.
no?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Conley,
Motion to close, yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mr. Trombley,
Yes.
Dr. Krebs,
Yes.
Mr. Storm,
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes. So that passes 7-0. And now I need a roll call vote. Ms. Ackermite, for each board member stating the name of the candidate to whom they support for the office of vice president.
Yep, and it's going to be Dr. Krebs or Mr. Trombley. Mrs. Marks,
Mr. Trombley.
Mr. Storm,
Mr. Trombley.
Dr. Krebs,
Myself?
Mr. Trombley,
Sure, myself.
Ms. Reed,
Dr. Krebs.
Mr. Conley,
Bill Trombley.
Mr. Myers,
Dr. Krebs.
Mr. Trombley is the vice president. He has 4 votes.
All right, so now we move to the office of secretary. Do we have any nominations for the office of secretary?
I nominate Dr. Krebs.
I nominate Jennifer Marks.
Motion to close.
We have a motion by Mr. Connolly, supported by Dr. Krebs. So we need a roll call vote, yes or no, to close the nominations.
Close the nominations, yes. Mr. Storm,
Jennifer Marks. Oh, yes,
Yep.
yes,
Yes, yep.
yes.
Dr. Krebs,
Yes.
Mr. Trombley,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mrs. Marks,
Yes.
Mr. Myers,
Yes.
Mr. Conley.
Yes.
That passes 7-0. All right, now we need a roll call vote from Ms. Ackermite, with each board member stating the name of the candidate for whom they support for the office of secretary.
Which will be Dr. Krebs or Mrs. Marks.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Conley,
Mrs. Marks.
Mr. Myers,
Dr. Krebs?
Mr. Trombley,
Marks, please.
Mr. Storm,
Mrs. Marks.
Ms. Reed,
Dr. Krebs.
Mrs. Marks,
Jennifer Marks.
Dr. Krebs,
Myself?
Mrs. Marks has 4 votes for secretary.
All right, and that takes us now to the office of treasurer. Do we have any nominations for the office of treasurer?
John Conley.
Dr. Krebs. Motion to close.
Support.
Motion by Ms. Reed, supported by Mr. Conley to close the nominations. We need a roll call vote, yes or no, to close the nomination.
Mr. Trombley,
Yes.
Mr. Storm,
Yes.
Mr. Conley,
Yes.
Ms. Reed,
Yes.
Mrs. Marks,
Yes.
Dr. Krebs,
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes, so that passes 7-0. And now we need a roll call vote. Ms. Ackermite, regarding the, for each board member to state the name of the candidate for whom they support for the office of treasurer, either Conley or Krebs.
Yes. Mr. Storm,
Mr. Connolly.
Mr. Trombley,
Mr. Connolly.
Ms. Reed,
Dr. Krebs.
Mr. Myers,
Dr. Krebs?
Mrs. Marks,
John Connolly.
Dr. Krebs,
Myself.
Mr. Conley,
John Conley.
Mr. Conley is the office of the treasurer.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is our roll call. Ms. Ackermite?
Mr. Conley. Ms. Reed,
Here.
Mr. Trombley,
Here.
Mrs. Marks,
Here.
Dr. Krebs, Mr. Storm,
Here.
Mr. Myers.
Here. That takes us to the approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Trombley, supported by Ms. Reed. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 7-0. That brings us now to the call to the public. If there's anyone here this evening that would like to address the board, this is your opportunity to do so. The process that we follow is there are cards at the back table. We ask that you fill out one of the cards, put it in the box there next to Mr. Engleter. I will then call you to the podium based on the cards that have been submitted. And then you will have your opportunity to address the board. You have 3 minutes. We will, Dr. Krebs, will you be so kind to handle the warning? There'll be a 30-second warning. When you have 30 seconds left, she'll hold up the yellow card. And then when the 3 minutes is up, she will hold the red card. So the first person that I am calling to the podium is Eva Helmanen.
Eva Helmanen, Brighton Lake Road. Happy New Year, everyone. Congratulations to our new board members. I'm super excited. And hopefully we can move past the shenanigans of the last couple of years. I wanted to put this in your thought box, in your brains, that at Brighton, we pride ourselves on all of our football fields, our new buildings and everything. And the hockey parents had to pay to get new carpet in the varsity locker room this year. The parents pay. Our hockey team is a prestigious team in the state of Michigan. It represents a lot of great kids. Us parents have been putting money for years after years for our kids to play hockey. They're proud to wear the Brighton colors. They're proud to be Bulldogs. I think that I would like to ask the board to maybe put a team together to either build new locker rooms for the varsity and the JV hockey teams at KV, or Brighton seems to have a lot of money, maybe a new ice arena. But I just think that these kids deserve what the football players and what everybody else has, and we have pretty great facilities here. And when the Brighton parents had to pay to get carpet that was disintegrating in the varsity locker room, it made me think, why aren't these kids treated the same? And there's a lot of great students on these hockey teams, not only socially, but academically. So I just wanted to bring that up. And hopefully the board will address that this season. And appreciate all of you. Happy New Year. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Susan Tobolewski.
Good evening. Happy New Year. I am here to congratulate two of the new board members to our board, to wish everyone a Happy New Year. And I will reserve my more strongly put comments for next board meeting and keep things civil tonight. Thank you all for your time.
All right, are there any other members here that would like to address the board during the call to the public? Nope. All right, seeing none, that closes the call to the public and moves us to the superintendent report. Dr. Roloff.
All right, I'm going to call forward Amber.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say congratulations to the new board members. We're really excited to have you here. So first, I wanted to go over some NHS updates. So this year, Senior Survivor is taking place the week of May 22nd. Last year, Senior Survivor raised over $100,000 for Fund a Life, and the goal this year is $110,000. Wait. Yeah. All of the NHS voted on the charities submitted at the December meeting. The winner was PHA, otherwise known as Pulmonary Hypertension Association. NHS chose PHA in honor of the class 2023's late classmate Madison Wagner. She passed away during our 9th grade year after losing her battle with PH. Her final wish was to find a cure, which the NHS wants to help accomplish. The NHS board, the senior survivor chairs, and the two NHS advisors, which are Mrs. Anderson and Mr. Carney, decided that the PHA is not a local charity. They wanted to choose a second charity to split the raised money, so it will go to the I Will Right Now Foundation. The I Will Right Now Foundation was a charity that NHS loved since it directly impacts local families. Senior Survivor applications are out now, and the paper applications are due on January 25th, and the video part is due on February 10th. This year's Senior Survivor group will be going out soon to ask for sponsorships, which are the paper that I handed to you just before this. So then now I'm going to move on to leadership class updates. This year we raised over $21,000 for Operation Christmas Wishes. And last time I was here, I kind of showed a video about what that was all about. So we are really excited to go over and beyond. This year our goal was $15,000, so we really surpassed our goal. As a leadership student, it was probably the most impactful activity that we did in our class, and we actually got to see all of our hard work come to life when we watched the kids unwrap their presents on that beautiful day. And if you wanted to watch the video that we made and created on the day of our delivery, it is found on the Yoga Strong Foundation Facebook page. And this year, a couple weeks ago, we had another outstanding winter assembly, highlighting a lot of the talent that goes on throughout our high school. So we were really excited. We really pulled that one together, and we've gotten some pretty good reviews on that. Now we are preparing for the Winterfest Assembly that will be on the 10th of February and leading into our big basketball game. And our check presentation for Trinity Health will be on January 18th. Some executive board updates is that we are preparing for our own talent show on February 6th at 7 p.m. So feel free to come if you want to see some talent. After school auditions are going to be held in the BCPA on January 31st from 2:30 to 5:30. And the senior executive board is going to be hosting our second pancake breakfast, which is something that we have a lot of fun with. We stay after school on the 23rd of this month, and then we make all the pancakes and then reheat them in the morning, and kids love it. So this year we're having it for the sophomores. Last month we had it for our freshmen, and so on and so forth. Some student council updates is that senior photos are going to be, we're really looking forward to having our students submit some photos, some baby photos, or just regular photos that they want in the senior book. And the student council is working really hard to make a super creative book this year. And we are promoting SnowCo, which is a new way that we're trying to implement our Winterfest instead of, it had like a really bad reputation for like being lame. So the sophomore student council is really working hard to pull that together and have a really fun dance this year. And it is semi-formal, which has been kind of on edge. We don't know if we wanted to make it, casual or formal. So this year we decided to go with semi-formal. And Senior Student Council is also trying to finalize our senior gift and make it really amazing for our seniors this year. This right now is kind of a dead season for the Brighton High School because we're really preparing for exams, getting all of our last tests in, and really studying hard. I know that I've been studying pretty hard for all of my exams. And then since the practice field has been open, all of the student athletes are really excited to get in there and start working hard. So we just wanted to thank you for that opportunity. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to email me or Mrs. Armstrong. So thank you guys so much.
I have one question.
Yes.
My name is Andy Storm, and I'm a new member of the board. I had an opportunity to, with Jennifer, tour a number of facilities here within our school district.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always interesting when we have the opportunity to interact with students.
Right.
I'm curious, as a student in Brighton Public Schools,
Mm-hmm.
what is the number one thing you think students need to succeed in Brighton?
I would say having the right teachers and the right curriculum, because as a student, I really succeed when I'm given the right materials, and usually that's by the leader of whoever is helping me. So that's usually the teachers. I notice that I do a lot better when my teachers are better. So I just think that the right guidance is what you need, and that comes from teachers.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay.
All right.
you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Amber.
you.
So before Amber goes, I'm just going to highlight, it's amazing every time I hear all the updates, all the things that they get to do, that they're doing for our school district. These student leaders are unbelievable. And they have a class of students that are all over the place, making a difference every day. Some of them are flashy things, like you might see them out front, but they do things behind the scenes all the time. Every time we walk through the school, they're in there doing something to help our school district. So I want to thank Amber, who's the leader of the group, and all of our leadership students for everything you do. So thank you all. Appreciate it. Yeah. And then the only other thing I would like to just say is we celebrated this last month, but this month is officially School Board Appreciation Month. And I just want to say that being on the school board is a thankless job. They're not compensated for this. They do this out of their goodness of their heart, and they do it because they care. They put in all kinds of time, and each one of them have different expertise, and they are instrumental to what we do as a school district. So I just want to say thank you to the Board of Education on behalf of the administration and the school district. Thank you for volunteering your time and for everything that you do for the youth of this community. So thank you to the board. All right. And that's it, Mr. Meyer. On to business.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Outlaw. So that moves us to the organizational matters portion of our agenda. And the first item under the organizational matters are the setting of the dates, times, locations of Board of Education meetings. In the packet are the dates that have been identified and these are the official business meetings that we will be voting on this evening to set in advance. Obviously, during the course of the year, we will have meetings that will get scheduled, workshops, if there's other meetings that arise on an as-needed basis. So these are just the ones that are set in stone that we have for the first Monday of each month. And then as needed, we will have future meetings scheduled on dates that obviously work with everyone's schedule. So do we have a motion to approve the proposed dates, times, and locations of the Board of Education meetings as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed, support by Mr. Trombley. All right, any discussion?
I would just like to suggest that we as the board reconsider having just one meeting a month. I find that that second meeting of the month, while it's meant to be a workshop and discussion committee of the whole type meeting, we frequently have things that we need to vote on at that meeting. And I think it would be appropriate for us to go back to a 2 meeting a month schedule, since we seem to need that second meeting more often than not.
I'll second that. Is that a motion?
I would agree with that, because one of the things, if we don't need it, we can always cancel it. I would prefer to have it on the agenda, on the schedule and saved.
We're meeting then anyways to do the committee of the whole. So if we don't have anything to vote on, then we don't have anything to vote on. But at least if we have it there, it's more transparent for the public that that is a meeting where we may be voting on things. That's my thought. I don't know.
And any further? Mr. Storm?
I mean, ultimately, as the new person, new member of the board, want to be supportive of what ultimately helps the board succeed and be successful. I think as I've had the opportunity to dialogue with just about everyone, with perhaps the exception of Alicia, there's been conversations around committees, developing some form of subcommittee structure where we all have an opportunity to focus on specific initiatives that mean something to us. And I'm curious, as again, a new member of this board, how the committee structure would ultimately feed into what we do in this forum. And I guess to be even clearer, the time commitment and the trade-offs between the two, if there is.
So the committee, the discussion about how the committee is, whether we're going to go back to a subcommittee structure, get rid of the committee of the whole, or add to the subcommittee structure and maintain the committee of the whole. That was going to be the topic of our work session, which is scheduled for, I think, February 7th. Is that the date that we have?
That was the placeholder. Yep.
So that was going to be the date at which we would have a discussion
Yep.
about that. What subcommittee only, getting rid of committee of the whole, maintaining the committee of the whole with no subcommittee, or a combination thereof. I mean, that's obviously what we're going to discuss then. I think for purposes of the setting of the actual business meetings, that is the topic of this motion, really is it's really independent, from my perspective anyway, it's really independent of where we ultimately land on the committee structure. And, you know, if we do commit to a second meeting in terms of the setting of the schedule now, it would be it'd be the fourth Monday we'd probably go back to the fourth Monday of the month as it had been done in the past. And then, you know, as Dr. Krebs indicated, we could cancel it if necessary. The committee meeting structure would move forward independent of that structure. So that's something I don't think we really have to worry about right now in terms of how we decide. I mean, I'm fine setting a second meeting date. Historically, what we did on the fourth Monday, we did not have one on the fourth Monday of December or the fourth Monday of March, because that conflicted typically with spring break. And I don't think we had one in July. So I think
We just had one board meeting in July.
Yeah, so I think historically we had, I guess that would be 9 meetings on the fourth Monday of the month during the year.
Right.
So with those exceptions. So I don't know if that's something that,
Mr. Meyer, could I just throw out a suggestion? Perhaps you have a second meeting this month and then maybe talk about it at that organizational meeting, because I think the committees and everything like that might be worthwhile to have just maybe commit to 2 for this month and then maybe modify it if you wish to do automatically 2 for the remainder of the year. Just a thought. But because if you're going to be a committee of the whole, I think that having 2 meetings a month makes great sense. If you're going to be having numerous committees, it might be a different model. Just throwing that out there.
I'd like to make a motion to have 2 meetings a month on the first 2, or the second Monday and the last Monday of the month.
so it's a motion to amend.
Yes. Yep.
Support.
For all 12 months.
That-
All 12 months.
No, like we've done in the past with the July
March.
and the March
9
and the
additional.
December.
The 9 additional months.
Yes.
excluding, I just want to clarify so we all know what it is, excluding March, July, and December.
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion to amend. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
That passes 6-1. And so the dates will have to, it's the fourth Monday of each month other than those 3 months stuff. All right. Okay. All right, that moves us to the item B, the depositories. The proposal is for the depositories identified in the packet as the depository of funds for the Brighton Area Schools for this year. Do we have a motion?
So moved?
Moved by Dr. Krebs,
Support.
supported by Mr. Trombley. Any discussion? Mr. Storm?
Just a general question, again, a rookie question, but as it relates to administration and handling of funds, is there a signature authorization matrix that's used within the district? I saw the reference in here to dollar limits. I'm just curious if, as a district, that is a general practice that's used, or if it really is this document that guides signature authority as it relates to the dollars that are being moved.
Typically this document, although that's the next motion.
Okay,
The depository ledgers as listed.
okay,
Signatories come next.
okay.
And the only thing, and it just as a confirmation, the signatories that are identified here, those are the ones that we have used in the past, correct? There isn't a-
Depositories.
The
I mean, the depositories, I'm sorry, yeah, the depositories.
Actually, the depositories here are a little more than where the district actually has all of its funds currently. But in this rising interest rate environment, we left it a little more open because we're actually looking at some available places. You know, our deposit accounts have really only been making about 3 basis points over the last God knows how many years, but that rate has been rising. I recently had a meeting with Huntington. They're offering a 4% rate on some of our stuff. So we're actually currently looking at some other things. So I did leave it a little more broad as it is listed in the packet.
Is each of the depositories that we're looking at able to disperse funds so that they're fully FDIC insured wherever we place them?
Well, FDIC insurance only covers on-demand deposits up to $250,000. So we don't spread our money out enough to make coverage on full FDIC on all of our funds. And really, it would be very hard to have enough depositories in the state of Michigan to spread our money out that much. So the answer to that is no. We obviously look at deposit risk and interest rate risk as we look at everything as we move along. But as far as being able to shield everything by FDIC insurance, it's just not something that's possible at this time.
Have we looked at any of these institutions to see if they have services that will parcel out the funds in order to make that happen?
I haven't looked at it in that regard, no. Because there are certain depository requirements in the state of Michigan as far as what institutions we can actually put in and what products we can actually use. So I have not looked at it for that, whether or not we can parcel it out within an institution. I'm not aware of that process. But so we always carry some depository risk.
Any further discussion? All right. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 7-0. Okay, that moves us to item C, which is the signatories for the various type of accounts that are delineated on page 6 of the packet. Do we have a motion for the approval of the signatories?
So moved.
Support?
Moved by Mr. Trombley, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? Now, this relates probably back to.
Yeah, normally when you deposit money in a bank from an institution like a school, there's, a signature process that you go through. So I was just curious about how that's handled.
This is the general document that the board approves as far as who's the signatories.
So this guides it.
This guides it. Then,
Okay.
of course, there's always signature cards on file with the institution and all of the process that goes with that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and so any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 7-0 as well. All right, that moves us to item D.
We have one more motion on the bottom. The following personnel.
Designated as signatories.
So the approval for the first portion of the signatory, we have the second portion. We need a motion and second. We have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Reed,
Support.
support by Mr. Connolly. Any further discussion?
So what's this, now what's this one? What's the difference?
So they're broken down into the two different subcomponents, as opposed to approving them as one consolidated. So the second one that we're voting on now is that the following personnel be designated as signatories for the different funds that are identified.
Okay, by fund.
Yeah, I think in the future, we could probably combine this into one. I think the first,
Right.
one- the first one here is really just regurgitating kind of what the state law indicates and what is dictated under the General Powers School District Act. Not really the meat of what we need to get to. The second part is the designate the signatories for the board's action.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 7-0. All right, now that moves us to item D, the authorization to transfer funds. Do we have a motion?
So moved?
Moved by Dr. Krebs,
Support.
supported by Ms. Reed. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. Moves us to item E, the treasurer bond, which is the proposition that the Board of Education, being not involved in the handling of the money, is not necessary to provide a treasurer bond. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
Support.
Moved by Mr. Trombley, supported by Mr. Connolly. Any discussion?
I hope you're right. Go ahead. I'm good.
I mean, I guess I was just wondering what's the intent of making a motion and voting on this if in fact the treasurer does not have that ability? What are we,
Well, I think if the treasurer were actually handling the money, then that creates some potential obligations with respect to then the posting of a bond. But since we don't, it's really a formality of recognizing that since we don't, the treasurer doesn't handle any of the money, that we're affirmatively voting not to, or opt to retain a bond.
okay.
It's a good question.
It is not necessary to provide a treasurer bond, so
It's a little odd. I've seen it in other districts where the board actually takes an affirmative vote to transfer the authoritative powers of the treasurer to my position so that the daily business of the district can be done. So I've seen it done different ways. This is a little bit hokey, I'm not gonna lie.
Hold on. What's hokey?
No, just
I'm the lucky one that
the,
has that position. What's
the
hokey about it?
the language that Mr. Storm was pointing out, that it's not an affirmative vote. It's more saying we don't need it. So it's a different way of doing it. It's not the cleanest.
I think we've done this every time.
Every year, yeah.
We've done it
It's
every
been the
year.
same.
And this is the same hokey language that we've used since I've been on the board for the last
Krebs
6
had it
years.
last year, right? Who had it last year? Who was the treasurer?
And that question's been asked
So now
before.
she's split, so she doesn't want to do that again.
All right.
Thank you.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 7-0. And that moves us to the last item in our organizational matters, and that is the retention of for legal matters, the legal services, and as proposed by administration to retain the services of the Troon Law Firm. Do we have a motion?
So moved?
Moved by Dr. Krebs,
Support.
supported by Ms. Reed. Any discussion?
Is that for a one-year commitment,
Yes.
just for this year? Is that correct?
it's every year we renew the engagement, so, yeah. Mr. Conley?
Personally, I didn't support Truman Law Firm, and tonight I'm not going to support them either. But they're in place, and obviously everything's all set up and working, so it's just my position. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Nay.
We got 2 nays. That passes 5-2. All right, that closes the organizational matters portion of our agenda and moves us into the for action portion. The first of which is item A, the Board of Education minutes approval for the meeting of December 12, 2022. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Moved by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion? You guys will have to abstain, the two of you, yeah. Okay, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 5-0 with 2 abstentions. All right, that moves us into item B, the new courses for 2023, 2024. Dr. Mosier?
So in December, we brought forward several courses for a new course proposal. We're looking for that approval and adoption tonight.
Like to move that, please?
Pardon me?
Like to move that forward?
Okay, motion by Mr. Conley,
Support.
supported by Mr. Tremblay. Any discussion?
A little. Congratulations and thank you for putting all that hard work into these classes and working on exploring some good options for students. As we spoke back when they were brought forward, I just would really like to do the same at the middle school level and team them up with these kind of classes so that there's a kind of a stepping stone from the middle school to the high school. So, but thank you for working on these. Appreciate it. Students will, I'm sure it'll serve them well.
Any further discussion?
Are you done, Jen?
Yes, thank you.
The one question I had, and I think we talked about it, I just want to get consensus that the graphics class there's a prerequisite for that. I don't see that listed.
Yep, so hopefully you have the newer copy on the page 13 under course description
Okay.
prerequisite. Yep, so there is a prerequisite for that course as well.
So when we have this, so then the pool of students, is it still only offered if we have a full class? Is that the way that is?
That's how all our courses run. Depends on the number of students who enroll.
So we have them offered and
Sure.
then we look at enrollment, and if we don't have enough, then.
Yep.
So, and again, going to something else that was said is when we add courses, that means we're taking away from other courses.
We could be. I mean, not
That's-
necessarily. I mean, you might just run fewer sections. You
Okay.
know, you don't know where it's going to come from. I mean, it's coming from somewhere, sure, because we have 6-hour day. But it could be fewer sections. It could eliminate something potentially, but we won't know until obviously students enroll.
And a class like the AP Pre-Calc is actually not taking anything away because that's just relabeling an existing
That's in
course.
lieu of the current pre-calculus course.
Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Conley?
Yeah, Dr. Krebs brought up a good question. Now, with the enrollment of these new classes, are we expecting they come in at full enrollment? Are we going to accept half full? What are we going to accept as exploratory and developing? Because they don't necessarily, as they get rolling, they may not fill instantly. Got to give this a shot.
Any course that's an elective course is always market driven. So if students sign up for it, they run. But sometimes when you're running a pilot, you allow a little bit more grace than you would a course that's been in place for a long time.
So it's potential if we had 20 students or 15, we'd give it a run. Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Well, to reiterate what was discussed at the last meeting when we talked about this, I'm really excited about all of these new course offerings. I think they're going to have a profound impact on the exposure that is being provided to our students in not only, obviously several of these are STEAM related. They obviously tie in nicely with the recent opening of our STEAM Center. The pre-med science is going to be a nice complement and expansion of, with the Health Ox and what's going on there. And the Orchestra Philharmonic is also another exciting program. In fact, it was kind of last minute, but I'd asked Dr. Allow possibly if, as I understand it, the the Philharmonic is going to be really the next step for the juniors, who now are the students that were starting that program when they were in, what, 5th grade at the very beginning. And so this is the final evolution of their accomplishments. And I was hoping that maybe there would be an opportunity to have a few of them come in and perform for us this evening briefly, those that would be advancing towards the Philharmonic stage, and maybe for another.
They plan to be here at the, one of the February meetings
Great.
on the
Well, now we
13th.
got
On the
a second-
13th.
now we got the fourth Monday, January meeting, so that might be,
Right.
might be an option too. But no, but it's really exciting that not only, obviously the STEAM, but the fine arts, and it's really, it's great that we're able to expand and grow all of these programs for the benefit of our students. So we're really
Great stuff.
really excited about it. So, all right. Okay, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. Moves us to item C, the BHS field trip request to Stratford, Ontario. Dr. Mosher?
Yep, so again, in December, we brought forward an international trip to Canada, seeking board approval. This is a trip that they used to take all the time, every year. Obviously, it's been on a little bit of a hiatus for a while, and they're looking to bring that back. This is for AP Lang kids, so 12th graders. Some juniors will go, or some other senior English if there's openings, and it usually happens after their AP exams.
All right. So do we have a motion to approve the Stratford, Ontario trip?
So moved. Support.
Moved by Ms. Reed, supported by Dr. Krebs. Any discussion?
So just a question, I'm curious, what is the reason or the intent that the field trip is to Canada? I mean, I just think of the region in which we live and the rich opportunities that exist in our region. Clearly, there must be a reason why they feel it's valuable to go to Canada, and I'm
French
just wondering
class.
why.
It's a French class and they're going there to study French. Aren't they?
It's Stratford.
Oh, it's Stratford, it's a theater.
Stratford.
It's a theater,
trip
I'm
in
sorry.
Stratford, which is a Shakespeare,
Yeah.
which is a
So-
theater that
So it's the theater itself that,
they study Shakespeare in.
Yep.
Of course.
That's exactly it.
It's a copy of the Stratford on Avon theater that Shakespeare originally performed in England. So it's a destination for many Michigan districts to go there that are much studying British literature.
and I see the reference to the cost of the optional self-funded trip is referenced, so there's really no cost to the district, according to this.
Correct. We help any student who needs financial support if they wish to go, but we don't, there's not a cost to us.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any nays? That passes 7-0. That moves us to item D, the 2019 Bond Phase 5 Contract Awards. Mr. Ingleter?
Yes, thank you. We did bring forward in December the fact that we were opening bids on Phase 5 of the bond. And we indicated at that time we'd be bringing forward contract awards in January. I did detail what all of the projects we were working on by building at the last meeting. These are the bids brought by trade contract. One of the items that is not, that we decided that we opened, that we decided not to bring forward was the athletic field refurbishments that were the drainage issues at Scranton, and then the regrading and irrigation of the fields left at Malpe. Those didn't come in as we expected, so we're getting some detailed drawings on the specifics for that, and probably put that back out to bid. So you'll see that at a later date. But for what was left and the things that we had intended to put out to bid, we did bring forth these contractors that you see listed in your packet. We are asking for approval on these tonight. They do exceed the amount that we had in the bond. So these will be drawing down the contingency balance that we've been talking about for some time now. We do have enough contingency to cover that, and that is why Mr. Trombley's been talking about hold on to your horses on that contingency, just for these types of reasons, because bidding climates change as the economy changes and as work is available or not available. So they're out there now, and we are asking for approval tonight.
All right. So do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Krebs,
Support.
supported by Ms. Reed. Any discussion?
Just for clarification for me, what's listed here are things that were approved in the bond. So these are things that we had a budgeted amount, but what happened is the cost is now more than what we had budgeted for. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Correct. There's a mix of things in here. So there, as we talked about at the last meeting, there are items in here that were in the original bond application that went through the state. There are also things that have been in front of the board before, like the safety platforms around the air handling units at the high school. There were in here some windows at Miller that she wanted to take out of a bond. But since we were bidding windows already, it made no sense not to include those here. So I've detailed that out, that 115,000 of this is coming out of a bond as well for the windows at Miller. I'm trying to think right now if there's some other little things in there, but the majority of the things in here right now are items that are in the bond application that cycle is up. The air handler on this building, the exterior doors excluding the front door on this building. You've got the Scranton asphalt work that's supposed to be done that we've talked about for a couple of years. The Spencer parking lot that we talked about all this year. All of those things are wrapped into this.
Okay. How much do we have left in contingency then after this?
I would estimate, and again, I'm
Estimate, of
just
course.
giving an estimate. I mean, Bernie's last count when we talked with him was about 3.7 million. I pegged that at about 2.5 just to be conservative. So you're going to cut my conservative estimate in half,
Okay.
but you still have another million and a half of contingency. I feel
Thank you.
comfortable that we're there.
So the 1.3 million is coming out of our contingency funds because either the estimates weren't properly adjusted for inflation or costs, or there's additional things that are costing us money by us keeping IDI, which I believe the majority of this board voted for to keep IDI and continue to pay them. For instance, on that 417,000 worth of electrical, is the Hilton electrical work in there?
There is Hilton work in there. That's correct.
And that's the work that they missed putting on the drawings when it was originally bid. Is that correct?
A portion of it is work that they didn't take to demo out the old stuff. The rest is additional.
That's my question.
The rest, it would be additional scope that we asked for to finish out the LEDs in the east
Because while they
lot.
were there, they didn't go ahead and do that in the first place. Since we were getting new lighting in the rest of the thing, they didn't see it fit to get lighting or to put new lighting in the rest of the parking area.
Yeah, but I think you could argue that was still, even if we did it at that time, it would still be additional scope.
Well, that's not my point. My point is, yeah, granted, we're going to have to pay for it, but we wouldn't be paying an additional markup, and it would have been included in the bid, which would have been a far more competitive number than a change order.
Right, but that's why we put it back out to bid in this
That's
packet.
what
because-
I asked you to do that, didn't
Because
I?
we had talked about the change order amount and decided it made more sense to put it out to bid.
That's right. But again, my point being, just like the platforms around the air handling units that we all discussed, now that's costing us additional money out of this contingency fund because IDI didn't match the shop drawings like they were supposed to, and to coordinate it to make sure that there were platforms for our maintenance guys to work off from. Correct? Yes or no?
I'm not sure how to answer that.
All right, well, I'm sure, and I'm answering the question. They didn't put them on, and it wasn't
They didn't
done
put them
correctly.
on. There were no platforms in the design. That is correct.
correct, even though they knew they were supposed to have been. So
That's the part.
this is where our money is
I
going.
think that what happened was that when they spec'd it, the unit that ultimately was ordered and delivered had a different specification that then created the conflict. Right.
It was between the manufacturers, and they didn't bother to coordinate them during the review of the shop drawings,
Right.
and that's why we're paying for it now. So again, this is where our contingency money is now going, instead of trying to help the students and the kids trying to improve their atmosphere in the schools. It's going to pay for fixing things that the professionals we hired didn't do what they were supposed to do in the first place.
Mr. Conley?
So Mike, this has got the Clark Construction. Is that additional service money to them? Is that additional fees for, what's that for?
The Clark construction piece of it?
Yeah.
That's actually a change order to Clark. That's what sets up the general conditions
It is
fund.
general, okay.
Yeah, for unforeseen items and like temporary fencing or temporary toilets or any of those things where you need.
I thought that was for the health ox, wasn't it? The 86?
No,
No?
no, the additional staffing services, that's another item later in the
Okay.
agenda tonight.
Okay.
Right.
So, but on this one, you'll see a change order to Clark Construction. That's to set aside money for general conditions.
Which is our money.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
our money. We just set it aside. If it doesn't get used, it comes back to us.
So this swing at this right now, we're sitting on 3.5 million and we're gonna drop it down to $1 million in contingency is what you're saying.
I'm saying, yeah, I'll put it at $1 million,
Give
but
or
it
take.
wasn't 3.5. I conservatively would say we're at 2.5.
Okay.
And then it would drop it down around $1 million.
Okay.
Minus the 1.3.
So on
That's what would get us down to this.
so on the asphalt bid itself, the 4 million,
Correct.
how much in that is an increase in what we had originally planned? Is that $1 million there by itself?
Honestly, right at the moment, John, I can't remember what the amount in the bond app was. The amount of Clark's estimate, and I think you can see that on page, well, maybe not.
It really doesn't matter. The idea, here's what I was thinking. So we all agreed to this. So it's part of
Yeah.
what we were planning on doing. In that asphalt though, in the specs and requirements for the type of asphalt and the grade of the asphalt and all those other things, I think it's probably, with everything else I've seen going lately, it's probably time for them to bring us a spec sheet on that asphalt, what they're going to put down. It's $4 million in asphalt. It's not too much to ask for. What grade
Yeah,
asphalt, and then Bill can, at least we can take a look at it.
Yeah, there's already a spec out there for what
I know
asphalt there
I
is.
know there's a spec, the type,
And-
because the road grade asphalt, but then we also talked about putting concrete in that section at Scranton on the one end where the buses are going to turn.
I don't know if that was in the detailed spec or not. I know it was
We talked
a
about it.
discussion.
Cost isn't
but
that different. It's not that much different to have the concrete than the
I
asphalt.
couldn't hear what you said.
The asphalt versus concrete in that radius where the buses are going to turn. If we put concrete down, it won't tear it up the same. So the point was, we talked about it and having them putting concrete on the end. Do you recall that discussion?
I do recall the discussion. I don't remember what made it to the final docs.
Let's find out.
I just remember having the
It's $4
discussion.
million of taxpayers' money if they didn't
Yeah.
spec the concrete and it cost an extra $10.
Yeah, I remember the discussion. It was, it's obviously
Well,
thickened asphalt for bus traffic
Well,
or
let's focus on
concrete.
that
so.
specific thing, and we got some new folks on the board, and we're all here. Let's just visit that and know what we're going to buy for $4 million.
Yeah, that's no problem.
Okay, thanks.
So I have a real difficult question. Payment terms. So I don't see in the documentation reference to payment terms. And again, just curious how payment terms are handled. What millions of dollars are involved?
As work is completed, they will turn in an AIA designated form that shows what has been completed to date and or materials bought and stored. And that'll be turned in to the architect for his approval first. And then it goes through the construction manager's process and they'll sign off on it as well. So they'll bill on a monthly basis for what's actually done and complete, and we will pay that out.
And I guess, is there any opportunity for us to negotiate more favorable payment terms when we have, multi-million-dollar contracts?
Well, we actually, as a public entity, we put it out to bid for a public bid opening.
Yeah.
So I don't know what payment terms you're referring
When they
to.
submit an invoice to be paid,
Uh-huh.
it dictates the timing by which we then release funds back to the service provider.
Yeah, would be dictated in the trade contract itself, and it's usually pretty standard. And it's usually payment, I think it's within 30 or 60 days within the time that they
And what,
submit
is
the
that
payment.
governed by the state, or do we have, I'm
That's our
not,
contract, Andy.
That's
Huh?
our contract.
That's our contract.
that's what I mean. So we create the contract, so we have control over the payment
Yes.
terms.
As well as we'll also hold 10% retention
Hold back.
up until the project's been closed out. Or at least I'd like to try to hold 10%. A lot of people want it reduced to 5, but you can really never get anybody back to get the stuff fixed if it's down to 5%. It's a small amount of money.
Any other discussion?
If I could ask a question, since we have open questions on some of the items on this list, can we defer the vote until the next meeting this month? Or is that not possible?
That question was asked in one of the construction meetings, and the reason why it's brought here tonight is because they need to get these contracts awarded in order for these guys to get slotted to schedule their work. So it'll start, so we're not hanging out like we did this year until, December, 45th, as I'll call it, trying to get things completed. So it is somewhat time sensitive in getting these contracts awarded and getting it scheduled to win the slot. Now, we were told that, for instance, this concrete or the asphalt will start, the work will start before school. Scranton is let out. There'll be some temporary roads put in. There'll be some temporary things and part of the parking lot blocked off, but buses will still be able to operate. But that's in order to get the jump on things. But again, they need the contract approved in order to get them signed in and to meet that schedule.
Yeah, I just checked into it. The concrete on that west end is what's going in there.
It's in concrete?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm good with that. The other would be just they can email us the specs and then we just know what they are.
But let me ask you,
There's a density number to that asphalt. That's fine.
yeah, so,
So we can approve it.
well, I guess I was going to ask Alicia, what would you like to do if, by waiting?
My concern was getting the answer to Mr. Conley's question so that we know what we're spending that $4 million on, but since we have that answer now.
Yeah. Okay.
So the only point of clarification that I have is a follow-up to the questions that Mr. Conley asked. I know that you talked about the additional amount above what the Clark estimate was, and the Clark estimate was based on the revised scope of work that included the road. But my understanding is the road was never part of the original bond application.
No, that's incorrect.
The road was. It's just
That was.
the parking lot that was.
But the road as designed with what is there now is different than.
Well, the road
There was never a road designed to start with at the
Yeah.
bond application.
But my point is that the road itself has expanded in terms of the scope of what that road will entail, which necessarily is going to require the additional contingency funds, right?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if, I haven't looked at the road, and when we originally budgeted the road, just like the road behind the high school, I thought that was going to be a 1-lane road, right? And it ends up 2-lane curbs, gutters, and everything else, which, of course, it costs us money to do that. I haven't looked at the road and what's been proposed for that road. It could be a 3-lane road. I don't know. Okay. So I don't know what has been designed, and I don't know if it's got curbs and gutters on it, Roger. I don't know the details of that road. Okay. And here's the other thing. I'm not so sure that anyone's gone out and even done any soil borings in the path of that road.
We've done soil borings down the path of that road.
What's that?
The soil borings are done down that road.
No. So you're telling me that the soil borings have been done all the way down the path of that road? When they do those?
Earlier this year,
Well, the road wasn't designed at that time, was it?
the basic layout of where it was going, once it was decided, we had soil borings done.
Well, we had soil borings done for elevations
That was-
and for testing.
Separate. That was early.
That was early.
That was early. We had
And then you
soil
said they came
borings,
back out and they put borings
I'm
along the path of the road.
97% sure we had borings done.
Well,
down
again, that's my point. If we don't have borings, we don't know what, we could run into a peat bog in the middle of that road. It's going to cost us more contingency to get it tore out and dug out and filled. So again, these are all things why we try to hold on to this money as much as we can. But again, I'd like to see some borings along there too, to make sure we're not going to get done. That happened to us.
So
I'm certain we have them.
So again, I don't know if the road's over budget by the design or not. I couldn't tell you that.
So,
The road as estimated, or all of the asphalt as estimated, once the scope was determined, was 4.387 million, and it came in at 4.244.
But that's not just the road. That's not a $4 million road. That's the parking lot and all the
well,
asphalt.
that's my
road.
point.
Yeah.
This encompasses the road, the parking
This is
lot.
all the asphalt, yes. Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean,
And this also includes Spencer, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yes. This is the entire package throughout the district.
So, because that was the point I wanted to get at, because the scope of what is now on the table for approval is unquestionably broader than what was in the original bond
Correct.
application.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So we're going to, just inherently, we're going to eat into additional contingency money because of the fact that we have an expanded scope of work.
Yep.
Clark estimated this expanded scope of work, according to what the spreadsheet shows, at 4,387,000, and the bid came in with the alternates at 4,244,000, right?
Yes. That's the way I read it.
Less than,
Yeah.
Right,
than what they,
correct.
okay.
That's why I'm curious why we're over.
But I think it's.
It's on the total.
It goes, we're over, going back to your point, we're adding in scope on
Right.
platforms, we're adding in scope on all the, all these other items, and you're right, Roger. I mean, it inherently was going to go into contingency because we had more than what was in just the original bond app. Much like we talked about with the indoor practice facility. It was a much bigger scope than what was originally intended, so it did go into contingency. We had those discussions for 2 years now. That's there, and that's how it works.
Call the question.
All right.
Yeah.
There's been a request to call the question, so there's any objection, because we'll call the question.
No?
All right, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any nays? That passes 7-0. All right, that concludes the for action portion of our agenda and moves us into for future action. Item A, School of Choice 2023, Dr. Allen.
Ms. Ackermite, you need the resolution, will it be February, now that we have an additional meeting? Still February? Yeah. Okay, at the February 13th meeting, we are going to bring the School of Choice resolution to the Board of Education for your consideration. We're doing final details, but it will probably be almost identical to last year, where we're looking at limited choice at the elementary school in all grades other than kindergarten. The reason for this is that our elementaries are close to capacity. We're getting full, and that's great news for the school district, but we're getting full in those areas, so we have to be a little bit more careful with our elementary classes so that we don't go beyond what we can house in our buildings. And then we would be unlimited in kindergarten, and then 5th through 11th grade. 12th grade is also a limited amount of folks there, and then the bridge is obviously is an unlimited choice as well. So that's what we're thinking. We're looking at bringing that resolution back on the 13th. And does anybody have any questions at all on that?
So the same program we did last year.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and that moves us to the next item for future action, additional fees, construction management. Mr. Angleton, Dr. Ola, who's going to handle that one?
I'll take it.
All right.
As we discussed at a certain point in the last meeting, Clark Construction Company is requesting some additional funds to cover additional staffing for the schedule as it's now stretched out. I have provided to you their request letter. I also put into the packet the prior request letter so you could see how we got to the point we're at now. The original plan for this bond was to have everything done by the summer of 2022. A whole slew of things have happened in that time frame between COVID and bringing back different designs on some of the projects, like Scranton and Spencer were intended to be done this past summer when the other parking lot work was done. But the designs were changed. We didn't like things. So by the time it was complete, it wasn't going to be done in that 2022 summer. It was going to have to be bid for this coming summer. In order to actually staff that and supervise the work, Clark is coming back and asking for additional funds, because otherwise, what was put out in the original request for proposals, their staffing doesn't cover that. So that's what you have here. I told you at the last meeting, we'd be bringing it back for discussion, so I brought it back to the board for you guys to talk about.
Okay. Any questions? Just as, go ahead.
I want to make sure that I'm reading this correctly. So we've got costs for both 2022, which is already over, and then the work that's going to extend to 2023.
That's correct. If you look at it, the original request that they had was from, and I tagged that as prior requests, that was from late 2021, and it went through about August of 2022 to cover the expansion through that. Then, because you can see in that prior request how that compared to the original schedule that they submitted their bid on. So there was additional services or additional staffing that was approved prior to this. Now you've got, like I said, Scranton and Spencer has been moved into this year. Some other projects have been moved. And the board had put in, additional work at Health Ox and Scranton Steam. So somebody needed to oversee that work. So that's the additional 2022 work that you kind of see is them covering that. And you'll see that's at about 99. And then they do show the staffing schedule for this coming year to cover down on that kind of stuff.
I can tell you in comparing rates from when it was originally bid at the beginning of the bond and looking at what they're charging us for the personnel that they're recommending, the rates aren't out of line. They're not. They appear to correlate with the type and the time. Michael and I have spent some time in looking at these numbers and looking at what they're asking for superintendents and project managers and things of that nature. So it's roughly another 9 to 12 months worth of additional time that they're asking for that, again, it was supposed to have been wrapped up for the original award this year, and it's going to continue for another year based on the fact that, again, the architect didn't do us a lot of favors in helping move this stuff along. There's been a lot of changes and discussions about the design because, again, we get a lot of things out. We get a lot of change orders, those kinds of things. So we try to get these things finalized. So it's ultimately rolled into about another year's worth of work.
So the only question I have related to this is estimating.
Yes.
Isn't the estimating function normally rolled into overhead? Why would we be paying for a delta in estimating? I understand the others are more direct project expenses, but
I think
This is estimating in regards to change orders and to bids, Andy. So, when, for instance, when a change order on the Health Ox Center, the contractor says, well, it's this much. We don't know if that's correct or not. So Clark has to take that back, look at the quantities, review that through their estimating department.
so they're validating that as our construction manager, they're validating the estimates
That's
that are being,
correct.
okay, that makes more sense.
That's correct.
in addition to that, when we added scope like Health Ox and Scranton Steam, they hadn't originally built that into their budget. I feel similarly to you that it's part of a contractor's job to estimate, but as the construction manager, they had built in estimator time. And in addition to that added scope, we as a board sent back, I think, Spencer for estimating 2 or 3 times, and they just hadn't staffed for that or built that into their original time. We kept making some design changes to Scranton and Spencer. So that amounted to some additional estimating as well. But I sympathize with your thought on that one as well.
So one last quick question.
Sure.
Since they're screening, we're paying them to screen estimates being submitted by contractors. Have they demonstrated or documented issues that they've caught on our behalf and helped us save money, helped the district save money. So if we're paying them to provide oversight, have they come back to us and provided us proof that they're actually saving us money?
I don't have written proof of what that is. I've never really asked them for that, but I know there are certain times that contractors submit something and they just say, no, we're not moving forward to that, and they won't even bring it to the district. They're the initial screen on those types of things when it comes through. They're using their expertise to look at it from a material standpoint, from a labor standpoint. You know, there's I can think of one where we were going through the what was submitted, and they were asking for some outrageous amount of time, you know, that would normally take 2 guys 3 hours. They had 4 guys for 4 or 5 days. And it was like, no, we can't, that's not doable. So they do that, but I don't have any written documentation of it to show you. It's just part of their acting on our behalf as our construction manager.
Thank you.
So they make a ton of dough, Andy, and they don't have anything invested except for a positive from us that hopefully helps them get their next job. And really, no, there's no risk. We're the ones, we have all the risk on both sides, really. But it's a necessity because not everybody's a professional in the areas they're professionals in. You're paying a fee.
I mean, I don't think it would be out of bounds going forward when we work on bid packages to actually write that into the package, that if we're paying for oversight, they should be providing some deliverable back to us, demonstrating the money we're spending on the oversight is actually resulting in savings for the district. Just something for all of us to think about.
Sure.
I'll volunteer to help.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
All right, any further questions? No? All right. All right, that concludes the construction management additional fees portion and closes the for future action. That completes all items on our agenda for this evening. Again, congratulations, Ms. Marks, Mr. Storm, your election to the board. Welcome. We look forward to working with you. Dr. Krebs, congratulations on your reelection. And our next meeting will now be Monday, January 23rd at 7:00 p.m.
Vote close.
Sure.
So I just want to say that I went to the a cappella night on Friday night at the high school that Mr. Johnson set up. And if you haven't gone to one of those, they're every January, strongly, strongly encourage you to go to that. It's incredible. The kids that we had students from 3 different universities had our alumni in them. And we had the 3 groups that the high school, which of course are always awesome. And then Scranton this year just blew me away. What he was able to get out of the Scranton kids. Strongly encourage you to go to that next year. It's always in January, the a cappella night. Thanks.
All right. Everyone, have a great evening. Happy New Year. This meeting is adjourned.